Thank you for joining us tonight on Facebook Live. This is the JFCS, Click with JFCS. I want to thank the Jewish Family and Children's Services of Greater Philadelphia for the opportunity tonight to share some insight with you. A few acknowledgments, if I may. I want to thank Paula Goldstein, the president of JFCS, and Pi Eisenberg. She is our senior vice president of community affairs. There are many of our JFCS staff watching tonight at home, many of our board, our sponsors, and our volunteers and donors. And we thank all of you for your participation tonight and your leadership throughout the year to help us and provide opportunities like this. So thank you very much. Tonight is our first Click with JFCS Facebook Live. Click with JFCS is our way of helping the community stay connected. We're fortunate tonight to be joined by Robin Sabbagh. She is the Assistant Director of Individual and Family Services at JFCS. She is a clinician, author, and clinical administrator. And at JFCS, she oversees clinical programs, including suicide prevention, domestic abuse, counseling, older adult mobile and general counseling. And prior to this, she worked in a variety of settings, including residential treatment centers and outpatient settings. And she's been in private practice as the provider of clinical and oversight services. And she is a mental health expert. She often speaks and writes on the topics of teenage girls and has been an adjunct professor at Temple University. She has appeared on Fox TV, and she is also an author. Her book is Strong Girls, Strong Parents, A Guide to Raising Teenage Girls in a New Era. Robin, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to get started with our first question is life has changed for a lot of us, well, for all of us. We're at home, and at our home, we're now not just a wife or spouse or husband or father or mother. We're now working at home. We're a parent at home. We're an educator at home. How do we find the balance? How do we do this?
That's a great question. I think a lot of us are really working to find that balance. I think the first thing is to really accept the fact that it's not going to be smooth or perfect. You're not expected to be overnight a homeschool teacher if you weren't one previously. You're not, if you're working outside of the home and now you're working in the home with your kids present, that's going to be a real challenge. So the first thing to remember is just to go easy on yourself and to kind of take your time and work to make this happen. But there are some strategies that you can put into place to make this a little bit easier. And it really depends also on the age of your children. Now, tonight we're going to focus on teenagers. On Monday, we're going to talk a little bit more about younger children, which has a whole different set of challenges. But with teenagers, it also depends on the age. A 13-year-old has much different needs than maybe a 17 or 18-year-old, but it's going to require being really creative with your schedule. So if you have another adult at home with you, you can consider some things like having a split schedule. Maybe the beginning of each day, kind of determine who's going to be the on-point parent for the morning and kind of take turns. Maybe working odd hours, like one person, if they have meetings that day, and then maybe talk to your employers and be real upfront about it and be proactive and say, I have kids at home and I might need to work afternoons and evenings at this point. Everyone is in the same situation. It's not unique. So your employer should be understanding and kind of in this situation. This is a community issue. It's not just unique to you. So kind of just being creative with things. Also with your teenagers, you can be real honest with them and say, listen, I'm going to be working in these hours. If you need me at certain times of day, then I'll be available to you. So kind of work with them to figure out what the schedule might look like. And if you're in a meeting,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're in a meeting, say to them, maybe give me a visual cue to minimize some interruptions.
And I liked what you said at the beginning is have a meeting where the two parents, if you're in a house with two parents or a single parent, would it be advisable to bring the teen into that meeting and say, this is what the day looks like, this is what our schedule, talk to me about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So you want to empower your teens right now because so much has been taken away from them. So now is the time to say to them, look, we need your help you can, we want to look at to you as an expert as well. We're in this together. What can you do to help us in this situation? So we've got to work together. This is our schedule for the day. Where can we all kind of fit in and pitch in? And, now that they're home more, this is kind of an opportunity to teach them to be a little bit more responsible, do things a little bit more around the house, and kind of maybe they can be one of the people who make the meals in the afternoon if you're busy, at work. So this can kind of be empowering for them in a way.
What's recommended for that meeting? I like what you said about we're going to talk about our schedule for tomorrow. We're going to talk about maybe you're going to do, I'm talking to the teen, you're going to do lunch tomorrow. I'll do dinner. How often are the meetings? Are they once a night, once a week? Or tell me like what you think is best for us as parents.
I think it's because so much changes. Like if you can get on a regular routine and it's working for you weekly, that's great. Like if you want to do it once a week, but because there's so much going on and depending on your job, there could be so much day to day that shifts. So you might need to do it once a day and say like, this is the schedule for the day. This is what we have going on. I'm going to be the parent who's on point right now. This is it kind of just like having a structure in place can really help reduce anxiety because there's so much right now that's unpredictable. So structure and schedules really helps to reduce any type of anxiety because there's so much right now that's unpredictable, like I said.
Well, because there's so much unpredictable, how do you explain this unknown to a teenager? When am I going back to school? I don't know. How do you explain that unknown or what's really happening to a teen?
So in terms of what's happening, none of us really know. We're all kind of responding with, we all have anxiety. But what a good place to start is really just asking them how they're feeling about the situation, talking about what do you know about what's going on, where can we, what questions do you have? And that really gives you a starting place because they might be getting their information from other sources. So it gives you a chance to maybe correct what they're already learned, what they may have heard. And it also tells them, so they might have heard, for instance, this only happens to older people. You can die from this, and it gives you a chance to kind of correct stuff, but then also, tell them where they can get appropriate information, such as, the CDC or the World Health Organization, and then also let them know that you're a person that they can turn to.
And when you're having these conversations with teens, and many parents will say, I feel so alienated from my teenage child these days. Not today, but maybe 2 weeks ago. Now that we're in the same house or we're in the same room, what are some things that we could do that together that brings us together? Let's put work aside. Let's put parenting aside. We're in the same house under the same roof. How do we do this together?
How do we manage this situation together?
Or what can we do? Is there an activity we could do? Is there bonding that we could do? Is there something that you recommend that this is an opportunity to strengthen a relationship with a parent and a child? So I'm looking for some advice or tips if you can.
So maybe we take a step back and maybe talk about why we want to even focus on teens first.
Okay.
But I think and then we'll get to that because I think it's really important that we focus on teens because I think of all the age groups, we're all struggling with this, but I think that specific age group is having a particularly hard time from what I'm seeing because this is the age in their development where it's so essential that they're going on this journey toward adulthood. It's the part of their growth and development where they need to separate from their families of origin and they're moving towards their peers. And now suddenly they may have been doing a beautiful job of that. And now that's all come to a halt and they're stuck inside, literally stuck inside with us. And so their development has really come to a halt. So they're in quarantine and they have very minimal independence. And whereas previously they had independence, they were taking trips to Wawa, maybe starting to drive, going on weekend trips sometimes away with their friends. And so they don't have any of that now. And then also they, although we think they're on technology all the time, they really enjoy that one-on-one time with their friends. So they're not getting that either. So this is a really hard struggle for them. Just to add to that, they have things like real grief right now for like missing things like prom, SATs, college visits, and they don't know when any of this is going to happen. So your question was, how can we have more family time? Was a good one, but I think also we have to let them know that it's okay to not be with us all the time. So if they need their space, like if you're like, okay, we're going to do all this today, and then tonight we're going to watch a movie together, and they're like, no, I'm doing a Netflix party with my friends. That's okay. That's healthy.
Well, kids are addicted to their screens. They're on the screens all the time, and now we've removed them from school where that's part of that socialization. They're not able to be with other teens. Are we a little lax now on the screens? What's some recommendations you have for keeping them socializing?
I think so. I think you don't want them to be on the screen all day long. It's important that again that they get the structure, they get outside, they go to do whatever type of schooling their school provides. They get exercise, they get some sun, but you don't want to keep them on all day long. But I think be more lax with the screen time because they do need that socialization with their friends, and they're not getting it any other way. So I think that's definitely something I would pull back on a little bit as a parent.
I want to talk about watching the news, and the news can be
Yeah.
informative, but it could be depressing. And is it okay to let teens watch the news? And if they're watching it, how do you really talk to them about this? What are some tips or recommendations you can have in explaining this unknown through the news or avoiding the news?
For the new, I would, for everyone, not just teens, like I would kind of try and limit it to 2 to 3 times a day. I know it's hard because if you're on social media, just everything keeps popping up. But if you can maybe just do it 2 to 3 times a day, really spaced out, and then limit it to like not before bed, so you have some time to decompress, because that's just going to add to your anxiety. The more that we keep getting fed, it's just like a vicious loop of anxiety. So it's okay for them to want, I mean, of course, they're going to want information, but constantly all day long being fed that isn't healthy for anyone.
If you're just joining Facebook Live, thank you very much. This is Click with JFCS, a function or feature for Jewish Family and Children's Services of Greater Philadelphia. We're speaking with Robin Sabbagh. She's a specialist in handling anxiety for teens, particularly around this tragedy that's going on, this world epidemic, if you will. Deb Bornstein from JFCS is part of our call tonight, and Deb is monitoring some of the comments that are coming in. And Deb, are there some questions that people have or some comments you could share with us, please?
Not as of yet. So people should feel free to comment and ask questions below, and then we are happy to answer them.
Okay, that's great. And Deb, you also, excuse me, Robin, you were also a parent of a teenager, and maybe you could share some of your actual applications of what you're doing with your child at home during these things, and maybe you could share that with some other parents that are watching tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I could say it's not going perfectly. Some days are better than others, but as far as what's really helping me is I think, we're like a feedback loop for anxiety for our kids. So if I'm anxious or overwhelmed, then it feeds back to my kids. So it's really important, I would say, for myself and for other parents of any age to really do that self-care, manage your own anxiety. So I find it really helpful to talk to someone if I'm getting anxious, I'm feeling overwhelmed, to take a minute. Going on these walks are really helpful. So anything I can do to manage my own anxiety, because they hear everything, especially they listen when they're not supposed to listen. So anything I can do to manage my anxiety seems to make calmness in the home. But the structure, I think, is really key. So every morning we've been just coming up with like a bunch of things that we're going to do for the day. And I let them come up with it. Of course, I had things on there that I think they should do also. And I'm trying to limit the screen time. I mean, it's definitely way over what it is. But the structure is really helpful because, again, like predictability. And I think just anything that we can do to like have structure and reliability right now is really helpful. So it's helped me. I think it helps them. I mean, they don't love everything on the list. But I think the one thing that's been helpful is just having more downtime, because I know that we rush around to so many activities and we're overloaded. So having a little bit of that downtime has actually been really helpful. So
I want you to give some advice to a parent that is trying to work at home. We touched on this a little bit. They're trying to work at home. Their boss is asking them for something. They look over and their child is not doing the assignment they're supposed to be doing for school. It gets frustrating. Should they put that burden on themselves that they're not getting their child to do it? The child has all day. Focus on work, then focus on the child. I'm struggling with, even personally, how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I think, remember that when they're in school, they're not doing work all day long. They're socializing, they're outside. They're not, so we kind of have this expectation that when they're at home with us, they should be working from 9 to 3 or however long they're in school. They don't have to be working all day long. They can set some time for work, but then they can go play. They can have some downtime and they have snack time. So I don't think we should get overwhelmed. And actually, this is a good opportunity for them to kind of self-regulate and be responsible and prepare them for the journey to adulthood when they have to be a little more responsible. I mean, if they're going to college in a few years, they're going to have to figure out their schedule for themselves. They're not going to have us on top of them. So it's kind of a good opportunity for them to be a little more responsible.
We didn't talk about physical activity. Maybe you could talk about recommendations for what a teenager could do just to get up, get off the couch, get out and do something. If you have some thoughts, please.
Yeah. So again, with the routine, and I want to add getting up every day, even if they have homeschool, not rolling out of bed right into onto online school. I would just get dressed, because just the act of getting dressed is really helpful for your self-care. And I think doing some type of a workout daily is really helpful. And it really is good for them. They need that physical outlet. There's so many online things. There's so many creative ways right now for people to work out. I know that for my kids, they have like all these online, all the sports they're in are like live streaming twice a day. So they can do things like that are, I think a lot of them are free right now, which is amazing. They can start, people are enjoying running now who have never liked running just because it feels so good to get out. Biking, I mean, they can bike with a sibling if they can't, since they can't be around their friends. So this is also an opportunity to try something new. Teach yourself how to skate and things.
What about the teenager that, come on, mom, I just want to go next door and see my friend, or can I just go down to the mall and hang out, or get in the car and drive around? Like, these are serious warnings. And as a parent,
Yeah.
you don't want to get into an argument with your teen over everything, but this one is serious.
Yeah, I think we just have to keep on saying, like, these are the strong recommendations of our public officials, CDC, and the sooner we can do, the more we do this, the sooner this will be over. And keep on validating. I know this is really hard for you, and I can imagine how hard it is not to see your friends, but the quicker we can get this done, the quicker we'll be able to see them again. But it's important to validate what they're going through.
You're listening to Robin Sabbagh. She's a specialist on teen and anxieties, and she's part of the Jewish Family and Children's Services of Greater Philadelphia. We're speaking on a series. This is our first Facebook Live. This is called Click with JFCS. We'll be doing another one on Monday evening, this coming Monday at 7:30 p.m. Robin will be joining us. We'll be talking about younger children, which is also challenging and very similar things as it relates to working at home, parenting at home, and having a young toddler at home. Deb is online with us here. She's with JFCS and monitoring any comments or questions that are coming in. And Deb, any comments or questions?
No, but we have, quite a few viewers. So people are very interested in what, what you're saying. And as a parent of teenagers, I can honestly say that so many of your recommendations, I will either, if they're not in place already, I plan to do that for my own kids. So
Great.
I'm glad you shared that with us, and maybe that's a sign that if we're not getting questions or comments, Robin's saying really good stuff, and people are writing everything down, and they're going to apply this right away, and it's great. And Robin, thank you so much for all of your insight. I want to make sure we give you an opportunity to say anything else or wrap up or give us a little bit of your observations or some tips that a parent could do that could apply that might help them a little bit. They're stressed out. They're just pulling their hair out of their head.
Yeah. So I would just, kind of just to wrap up everything we kind of already talked about, just remember, that first of all, that there's help available, which I'll kind of talk about at the end again. But to talk about your teens, remember that they're frustrated about not seeing their friends, and that's really real. We can just continue to validate that. We're humans, we're social animals, and especially teenagers, because this is like the prime of the social bonding. So keep acknowledging that. Let up a little bit on the social media. Quote me on that, but remember the structure, really to structure and establish that daily routine, I think is really helpful. I think it's helped me a lot, especially like on Mondays through Fridays. Saturdays, weekends you can let up a little bit, but if those are the days that you'd be doing that, eat as a family, at least that's the time that you guys can be together. But if you want to let the teens like have some downtime. It's okay for them to like not be part of everything. Let them feel like they're part of the schedule, and like let them feel that they're important, and that they have control, because the control and predictability again are the main sources of what causes anxiety and emotional dysregulation. So try and just have as much predictability and structure. Promote normalcy, and remember, it's physical distancing, but not social distancing. So we still need to interact. Call your friends, encourage them to call their friends. If you see that they're not interacting with their friends, that might be a sign that they really do need to reach out. If there's some types of concern that they're not, if they're showing behaviors that are not like before, like they're more withdrawn, or they're more angry or irritable, maybe that's a sign that they need to talk to someone or get more help. So, and we're here for that as well. Give them some space. Again, if they need to be alone, they don't want you around, it's not necessarily a warning sign, just again, being a teenager. So just know the difference. If it's out of character, then that's a warning sign, but also allow them their space. It might be helpful for them to like focus on others in terms of like, yeah, this is really hard for you, but there are others who are struggling a lot. So maybe they can learn about some volunteer opportunities, and really self-care for yourself, because you're really holding it all together for everyone. So that's a really key ingredient.
If you see some signs that the child is unmotivated, maybe it could be the start of depression. It's hard for a parent to detect that.
Yeah.
If they think that they see something, how can they get in touch with you, Robin?
They can call our care navigation line, where we have extended hours into the evening now, and we're doing telehealth. We have individual programs, and we have a lot of groups available now. So we have a ton of resources available. And Deborah's going to give a little bit more information at the end.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I want to remind everybody that's watching that JFCS is here for you. Robin is a wonderful resource and an asset to us at JFCS. And there are many other wonderful resources. If you are struggling.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deb.
No, it just came through. It just came through. So exciting. The question is, what do you do when your child tends to retreat and you don't know what they may be feeling?
Good question. So that's an opportunity to say, start a conversation with them, ask them how they're feeling. And if they don't want to talk about it, just let them know that you're there for them. And just keep encouraging them to talk to you. And, when they're ready, hopefully they can come to you.
And thanks for.
Oh, sorry. Just
thanks to the person that made the comment. I wanted to go back to what we were saying, that if you are a parent watching, you may have an elderly parent who needs some love or attention. And we're going to address those in some future Click with JFCSs. And I just want to remind everybody, there are resources here if you're struggling. If you recently lost your job and you need to talk to somebody, we can help with that at JFCS. I want to thank Robin for her time. You've been wonderful. I've learned so much, and hopefully those at home are watching. Robin, if you could just give us the phone number and how to reach you if anybody has any questions. And I would thank you once again for watching. Thank you, Robin.
Sure. So to reach our care navigation line, it's 1-866-JFCS now. And then our care navigator can connect them.
That's wonderful. I want to thank everybody. Deb, thank you for monitoring. Robin, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everybody at JFCS.
Thank you, everyone.